Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing sort of a character spotlight kind of video. In this one, I'm going to be explaining, giving my thoughts on the comic book series version of Negan. This one will contain spoilers for the comic book series and also possibly the television series, so just a warning. Okay, so I wanted to do this one for a little while, but I kind of separated it from the other kind of Who is Negan videos, Negan Explain videos, where I go through one of my favorite characters from any comic book, really, Negan, the main villain for The Walking Dead, even surpassing the Governor at this point, which is kind of surprising because at one time I felt like the Governor was the quintessential Walking Dead villain and that we would never have another villain as good as the Governor. And then this trade was released, which is, of course, Volume 17, Something to Fear. And if you're wondering what's going on with the backdrop here, where the trades are, for Christmas, I'm going to be doing a Christmas special on the 24th. It's already filmed. It's already done for you guys. It's a 45-minute video where we go through in-depth all the differences up to current time in the Walking Dead television series between the comic book series version and the television series. We go through all the trades, and it's an in-depth video. It took quite a while to make, so I hope you guys like it. Look for it on the 24th, usual time. I think I set it for about 1:30 p.m. on the 24th, so you guys can watch that. It's kind of like a Christmas special I did with the channel. Did kind of an extra long extended video with you guys to hang out and talk about all the differences between the comic book series and the television series. And part of why I'm doing this video as well as that one, is because I recognize that a lot of you guys haven't read the comic book series, and that's cool. I do understand, each trade is US is 15, so Canadian, that's like 20, and there's like, over 20 trades now. There's like 23, 24 trades now, 25 coming out soon, right? So that's a lot. That's pretty expensive. So I recognize that. I understand that. And I know a lot of you guys are not going to buy them all. So what I decided to do instead was, decide to go through them with you with that differences video up to the second half of Season 6 to the start of that. And in this one, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Negan from the comic book series, his character, so that any of you guys who want to know what Negan's storyline is in the comic book series that don't have the cash to buy all of the trades, or all of the issues that contain Negan to get the whole idea. You can read the wiki page on him. I'll put a link in the description below for you guys. And, of course, we'll talk about him here. So initially, the Governor being the biggest Walking Dead villain to me, couldn't picture anyone outdoing the Governor, but at this point I would say safely that Negan has, for sure. So Volume 17, he shows up with a bang, a lot similar in the way the Governor shows up in the comic book series, where he basically captures Rick, Michonne, and Glenn and cuts Rick's hand off almost instantly, to show him that he's not to be messed with. Negan's almost even more brutal than that, because he actually kills one of our main survivors, which is in this trade, and also in this issue, which I actually do have first printing of. I also have the McFarlane cover variant for this somewhere, which is issue 100 of The Walking Dead, the big 100 issue, right? Issue 100. And it's amazing. You got Rick standing there, on the cover. You've got all the bodies of all the people who have died thus far in the Walking Dead comic book series. Just crazy. So this one, man, this was a jaw-dropping issue for sure. This was Negan's kind of big introduction. So what happens first, what we're going to see in the second half of Season 6 is that at first, they're not going to know what Negan is. Rick and the group, they figure they're pretty tough. The survivors are pretty tough. They've handled, the Governor. They've handled a lot of other threats like Terminus and, in the comic book series, the Hunters and different groups like this, the Wolves and the Scavengers and that. They've handled a lot of groups that are pretty tough guys. So they've got some confidence in them now after that, and they feel like they can handle basically anything. They find this community called the Hilltop, which is basically a huge community, kind of like a farming community. They have a lot of food. They have a lot of resources. They've got nice big walls, similar to Alexandria, but they're not tough. They don't have any kind of military. They don't really have an army. They're pretty weak for the most part, and as such, with them being so weak, basically you have Negan's group, who's called the Saviors, who we've already kind of met in the TV series, and we're going to see a lot more of them in the prologue. They show them for the second half of Season 6, and basically the Saviors and Negan's group force the Hilltop to pay up to them. They give them food. They give them half, basically, of everything they have, and in payment to the Saviors, to Negan's group for protection, which basically means Negan's group doesn't kill them. And the Saviors are quite big. You do have a lot of them. Here's a page with a lot of them that come out here. They outnumber, Rick's group like crazy. They outnumber, I think even, maybe not the Hilltop, but in terms of fighters, they vastly outnumber the Hilltop. And the first appearance of Negan is basically here in issue 100, where he finally shows up. We've heard his name a few times. He shows up here, and basically Rick's group has killed a number of the Saviors because they didn't really know what they were. They didn't know who they were messing with. And they killed them. So afterwards, you see Negan punishes them, basically. And he plays Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo with them in issue 100. And the person he picks is the comic book series version of, like I said, spoiler warning, this is a spoiler video, Glenn, right? So... man, and then basically after he picks him, you see what is the most brutal few pages of a comic book series I've ever read. You've got Negan smashing Glenn's face with Lucille the Bat, and just absolutely brutalizing him to the point where there's nothing left. Yeah, that's graphic. That's brutal, I know. So it's one of the darkest parts in the entire series for sure. Probably darker than anything that the Governor did. And, just basically leaves them after that. Leaves them because, see, what happens is Negan and his group gank Rick's group, and basically has a small portion of Rick's group there, and they have tons. Negan has tons and tons of men, vastly outnumbers them, and has a dominant position over them, so he forces them all to kneel, and then he smashes Glenn's head in. And that's issue 100. Obviously, a huge death from the comic book series, a huge issue, so this is one definitely to check out if you've never read it, just to get your own interpretation, or you can always buy Something to Fear, which is included in this trade. So that one is, oh man, really, really crazy start for Negan, for him to be introduced in the comic book series. Going on from there, basically, Rick and the group realize over the next couple of trades and parts of the story that they basically don't have much of a choice. They have to pay up to him. They don't have... There's nothing they can do about it. They're outnumbered. They're outgunned, so to speak. They don't have the manpower on Negan's group, and they can't really face Negan's group, in an all-out war right off the bat. So what they do is they bide their time. They let Jesus, who's a character from the Hilltop, know that they're basically not going to stand for what Negan's doing, and he introduces him to another group, which is also paying to Negan and the Saviors, named the Kingdom, who is led by a character named Ezekiel, who we'll get into later, who actually has a tiger, which is fun. And basically what happens with that is that we see Rick and the others, they start to form a kind of alliance with these other groups, the Hilltop and them, against Negan's Saviors. Then after that, we see basically what is all-out war. Let me grab the trade. So we've got what comes after, which features Negan's face right here, which is a pretty cool shot. So that one is basically after Glenn is killed, and we're getting to know Negan. You get some back and forth fighting, and Carl kind of goes nuts and tries to kill Negan, which is fun because the comic series version of Carl is quite a bit more badass than the TV series version. So you have that. And let's see. Then we get March to War, where you have Rick, and you have Paul Monroe, Jesus, and then you have Ezekiel from the Kingdom. He's the leader of the Kingdom with his tiger. And basically, they prepare, they get ready, they talk to Dwight, who is also a character we've seen in the television series already, who seems to play both sides. Even right off the bat, he does seem to be playing both sides in the TV series version, and he does that a lot in the comic book series too. You don't know whose side he's on. Does he hate Negan? Is he loyal to him? This kind of deal. Negan burns half his face, so he kind of has to listen to him, but does he really? This kind of thing. He's in between, playing both sides. Eugene calls him out on it and tells him that he's playing, at best, he's playing both sides to his own advantage, so whoever wins, he's going to win because he's on both teams, basically. Then we get what are probably the two most exciting parts of the Walking Dead series all the way through, including the Governor stuff, including everything else, and that is all-out war. So this is when, against Negan, Rick, and the joint communities, which is Alexandria, Hilltop, and the Kingdom, they all join together. They join all their manpower together. They have a lot of ammunition, more than Negan's people, the Saviors, have, and they basically go to all-out war. You've got some back-and-forth battles. You've got a point where Negan attacks Alexandria and grenades the hell out of the place from outside, and the whole place basically burns down, destroys the whole place. You've got some big deaths in there, some characters getting their legs blown off and all kinds of craziness. Some big deaths from Rick's group, a few of them here and there. And, of course, all the other communities, too, losing a lot of their people. Negan's losing a lot of his, but we never really care too much for it because we never really get too attached to Negan's men, because we always kind of, I don't say hate. Yeah, we basically hate the Saviors all the way through because they're the villains. So that's the first part of All Out War, where you have Rick eventually. He does take, or Negan. Yeah, they start fighting back and forth, and there's some awesome parts here where Rick and the others attack Negan's group at a facility that he's staying at. Here's a part with him on a truck, which is pretty cool. And he's got a grenade in his hand, and he starts chucking grenades over the Alexandria wall. And then there's All Out War Part 2, which is, I think, the best trade of The Walking Dead ever. Even better than Made to Suffer at this point, I would say. After I bought it, went over it a couple times, compared and thought about it. Yeah, this one is pretty incredible with Negan. And basically what happens is, this is the final part of the battle, final part of the war. Negan has an idea to get all his people to gunk up their weapons, their swords and bats and whatever, with zombie guts and arrows, and then use them against Rick's group, which I was never 100% clear on whether or not it kind of worked. It's done pretty well in the comic book series. You can read it if you want to know a little bit more about that. And basically what we see is Negan and he and Rick go to a final battle, a final standoff, where they have kind of a chat. And I like this page right here where he goes, he says, "Fuck," here at the top. And he kind of looks at Rick when Rick tells him what they're trying to build. And then Rick catches them off guard. Now, this is pretty spoilery here. This was a part when a lot of us thought Negan would be killed off, me included. I thought he was going to be killed off here because the governor was. But what ends up happening is basically, now this one's major spoilery, Negan actually breaks Rick's leg, which is pretty crazy because he's so much bigger than Rick, and Rick only has the one hand, so he breaks his leg. But eventually, Negan does pass out from the loss of blood, and Rick's group actually does win. Dwight takes Lucille and tells the Saviors to stand down, that Negan has fallen and that the battle is over. Rick's group and the joint communities win, and they defeat Negan in the end of the comic book series. But Rick ensures that they keep Negan alive, which is kind of a twist, because usually he kills all of the villains that mess with him. And then later on, we get some nice stuff with a time skip. We get a new beginning, which is pretty cool. And Rick basically keeps Negan in a jail cell and uses him later on so far for advice and just to kind of get information, which comes in handy against a new group, which is called the Whisperers. It's way down the line later on. TV series, that'll probably be a while till we see them. Could even be around like season 10 or something if we get there in the television series. And that's pretty much it. Negan has a cool relationship with Carl when he's kept in captive in his cell. Carl seems to relate to him quite a bit and ask him for advice and just have fun talking with him and getting his ideas about what to do about girls and things like this. So it's pretty funny. And Negan, he's depressed, of course, but he tends to smile quite a bit and try to keep up trying to be happy, this kind of thing, because it's just kind of the type of personality that he has, that he likes to joke around a lot, screw around, and he's a pretty dark character. But there's darker coming in the future. Of course, Leader of the Whisperers Alpha is even worse in terms of her brutality and inhumanity and everything like that. Humanitarianism. So there it is. So there's kind of my summary of Negan in the comic book series as we've seen him so far. I can't wait to see him in the TV series played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, of course. Going to be showing up in the season finale, most likely, from all the leaked info and the rumors and everything. So should be awesome. Any of you guys wondering kind of what the comic book series storyline for that character is, now you know. Hopefully that kind of fills in the gaps for you, and you have an idea of why we're so excited to see him. It was really funny and just a lot of fun to see, and very, very scary as well at the same time. And reasonable, though, if you do listen to his rules. He actually is pretty reasonable for the most part if you listen. He also has a bunch of wives and stuff like that he keeps, so that's funny. And he's just a really hilarious character from the comic book series. So there's kind of my summary. For those of you guys who don't know, those of you guys who've read the comic book series, you already kind of do know. But maybe you like to kind of hear my thoughts and summarizing up the best villain in The Walking Dead thus far. So if you guys like the video, stay tuned for the 24th to see the differences video, where we go through all the differences, or a lot of the differences from the TV series to comic book series, the different storylines. I'm sure for Negan in the television series, his storyline is going to be much different, guaranteed. They're going to switch up a lot of things, I'm sure. It'll be a lot like The Governor, where it doesn't fit the same way, and, they use events differently, and it should just be a lot of fun, though, in Season 7, that's for sure. If you guys like this video, you can go ahead and thumb it up below. If you want to support the channel, you can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to know more about the Walking Dead comic book series, television series, all this extra info we talk about, we give you guys, you can subscribe at the bottom left. That's it for this video, guys. We'll see you again probably tomorrow. Definitely for Christmas. Have a great Christmas, guys. If you don't watch another video, if I don't see you, until after. And Happy New Year. It's Trev, and I'm saying peace.